Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How is it going? Alrighty, so today we're going to be going over how to draw a power drill like the one that you see here. I know that we're in the middle of the chair assignment, but as we're starting to grade and look at more in depth your guys' assignments from the handle project, some of you attempted things like hair dryers, hot glue guns, drills, and other objects like this. So I thought it'd be good to just recap these things with a drill drawing. They're pretty complicated objects for the most part. So I thought this would be a really good one to really practice all of the things: composition, complex construction, blah, 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 blah. So this is the drill that we're going to be sketching. This is the drill that I have. So let's take a quick look. So this one's got a detachable battery pack. I don't have a drill bit in it right now. There are a lot of parts. I believe this section is called the chuck, if you guys are interested. We've got some interesting vents. We've got at least 3 buttons. There's a lot of parting lines that show where the material starts and stops, and that's from the manufacturing process. We've got a fun little level. That's a nice little feature. There's obviously a lot of texture, but a lot of like surface details as well. You can see some areas where the fasteners go in. Button down here to release the battery pack. Textural changes, all kinds of great stuff. Logos, embosses, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to just look through these pictures with me. That way, if you want to just go ahead and try and sketch this on your own as a practice, you can. That would be super awesome if you did. Great exercise. Let's see, what else can I say? In this episode, this video, I would like to do an exploded view of this. So why are we doing exploded views? So first of all, they're really exciting. They're really fun. And then second, they are a little bit more challenging. And so if you are wanting to draw like a minimalistic or simplistic object, but don't want to be concerned about getting points taken off for drawing something too simple, try and think about how the parts might be assembled, or if there are buttons or parts that you could change the composition of to show an exploded view. That would be really, really cool and definitely get you a lot of points. Some of you guys are already doing this with things like opening hinged objects and showing different positions of stuff. So that's really great. Just something to think about. So let's go ahead and jump back to Procreate. Okay, so again, trying to reinforce the fact that I want you guys to plan your sketches before you do them so that you know what your composition is going to be like. I've already done that for this assignment, this video. So this is what I'm kind of aiming for. I'm going to imagine that the chuck part, which is this thing, is separated. We're going to be using a portrait composition, and then I want the battery pack detached too, and the drop shadow will be right on the plane where the battery pack is resting. So let's jump in. And I turn my composition vertically, which will also be a little bit helpful for, whoops, that was weird. What's going on? Okay, come on. Oh no. Shoot. Did it update? No, I don't know how to do this. Oh man, you guys. Okay. Okay, not sure. Oh man, I'm sorry you guys. Just skip ahead. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I was trying to open it. Whew. You guys, you're probably screaming. I'm so sorry. That was really embarrassing. I was trying to open the app that I was using. Oh my god. Okay, moving on. So, I would say that, let's jump back here for a second. A drill like this, generally in terms of its like volume that it takes up, is probably a little bit. Almost like, you can almost think of it like a cereal box, really, right? Because we've got this whole thing here, that's a cylinder, right, generally. And then there's a cylinder here that comes down to a cylinder. And then this is like kind of like that. And it comes down. So I messed up my proportion a little bit. But like, you get the idea, right? It's a cylinder, and then a rectangular prism. And so they just some like more complicated stuff up in here and around there. And then we've got our swoopy stuff that turns into the trigger here. And we've got some more fun stuff going on there. So that's how we'll start building this. Okay, so let's drop this down nice and small. So I'm gonna give myself a center line, and that is gonna represent the center of, well, I changed my mind actually. I kind of liked the approach before. Okay, so again, I want this to be an exploded view, so I'm gonna make this just a little bit. Give myself a little bit more space than I would normally. Okay, so I've got a vanishing line going way over there, and then I got another one way over there. And I want to make sure I have room for my drop shadow, so I'll make that a little bit dramatic. I'm going to think about this probably being pretty intense, like that. Oops, no, don't like that. I want that to come in a little bit. So again, like we talked about before, there's the kind of perspective where all of your vertical lines are perfectly vertical, and then there's the what we call three point perspective, where they converge towards a point way at the bottom. So I kind of am using that here, just a little, like a very, very gentle one, to make it feel a little bit more realistic. As you guys probably have experienced, when you have really large objects that get far away from your horizon line, they start to get pretty distorted. But a third vanishing point can really help bring that back to being a little bit more normal. Okay, that doesn't feel right. Okay, not bad, I think. Now we know that this housing, this is basically, this whole section up here above the handle is a motor housing. So behind this black plastic here is a really like big ass motor, and then there's some componentry in here to control, you know, the like speeds and torque and yada yada. I might have that entirely wrong. Just some like settings kind of stuff. But what I was trying to say, sorry, is that this motor housing is pretty cylindrical. So we're going to imagine, basically going to try and put a cube. Nope, that wasn't right. That's a little better. Okay. So we're building a cylinder, or a cylinder into here to represent the motor housing. And I personally know that my cubes, when I make them, typically a little bit flat, so I'm taking that into consideration and making it just a little bit taller. So if I pull this line this way, now obviously this isn't a cube because it's a rectangular prism, but if I imagine that feels pretty cube-ish, which means that when I make my cylinder or my ellipse there, it's gonna look good. Okay, I'll put this back line in for construction purposes. That wasn't quite right. Better. No, that doesn't feel good. Neither does that. Nope. There we go. Okay. All right. So again, I'm going to use my X method to find the center. Some of you guys are still slacking a little bit on your ellipses. I can go a little further. Sorry, give me 1 second. True tones off. Okay. Okay. Here's my cylinder. And if I want to know how far to go, back here, I can do the same thing. Whoops. I think I messed all those up a bit. Wow. You guys can hear a dog barking. It's not my dog. I wish it was. Okay, so that turned out not so good. That circle looks really fat. But now my line doesn't connect. What have I done? This is kind of weird. What did I do? Let's try this again. Okay. So I have a face. Here. Maybe that was it. No. It still doesn't. Oops. Okay, maybe that was why. There we go. Oops. Yes, okay, cool. Sorry for that detour, but I was drawing something really, really whack, and now it's a little bit better. Okay, so, let me see, do I have just a plain side view? Sort of. That might be the closest one. Okay, I don't think it's true, but let's just imagine that the handle is perfectly perpendicular to our motor housing, and I'm gonna say that maybe oops, jeez. You guys are really gonna want to skip through this. Okay. I want to do a good drawing for you guys. Okay, finally. There we go. Now, okay, so here's my center line. So let's drop this down. Okay, and then I think let's try about there. Maybe a little further. Okay. And now this one, the handle is actually pretty rectangular prismy, so I will create a rectangular prism as our reference. Okay, and then this whole section in here, how that transitions, is going to be pretty organic. You can see the way that it like flows in there. So I'm just gonna basically like leave it for now, and then I think I'm actually gonna go based on proportions. I'm gonna go up this. I know there's a line here. Center line might be. Oh, you know what? Look at that. If this is my center line, and if I use my X method, I did not line that up well. So let's actually okay, so if we wanted to fix this, actually need to do it again. I think the center line was honestly kind of confusing me. Yeah, that actually already feels, excuse me, a little bit better. Okay, and then I might have actually made that too low. I'm going to use these lines as a reference. No, those don't feel right. Okay, that's better. So here's our center line. There we go. So there's the center right there. And I want to make sure I have room for my battery pack. I think this is the right way to go from a proportional standpoint. Okay. Actually, I think that truly this is going to be more like that. Yep, and then I think this is going to come out further. Okay, all right, and then I'm going to draw some lines now for the battery pack, which is going to be below. It's going to be pretty far. Yep, that feels good. Okay. Okay, proportions of this battery pack. The battery pack's actually pretty big, so it looks like this exploded view is actually going to have some overlap. Okay. And then I think if I want to do this as an exploded view, I actually might need to pull this cylinder out even further. And then top there. Okay, cool. So we have the general construction. If I was going to modify this at all, probably put it up a bit more, like so. Okay, cool. So one thing that we know is that this the chuck gets pretty small at the end. So let's say that this face here is the end. I'm going to say, okay, find the center real quick. Okay. Probably right about there. I'm going to essentially just make another ellipse here. That looks a little flat on that side. Okay, and then there's a hole in the center. Then there's another ellipse, and it gets bigger like that. Yep. And then that ellipse has an ellipse around it. And then that one does one of these. Those don't look quite. Oops. Still not quite right. Okay, sweet. Now we can use this ellipse here. As this second black part. So this was the first black plastic, that was the metal. Now we're working on the second black plastic piece. We're avoiding our footballs. That doesn't feel quite right. That's a little better. I think I was cutting this one in too shy. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so it looks like I may have ran out of room on my page to do an exploded view. Like I could pull this whole thing out this way, but it'd be a lot to redraw now. So if you have room and you think you can fit it between here and here, that would be awesome. I'm gonna keep going with this silver part. Let's see if I have a good image. I think that'll work. Okay, so if we can assume that the trigger is somewhere like here, it's probably a little longer than that. Kind of like there. And the silver part stops before that. We can then assume oops. Well, that did not turn out right at all. Okay. I'm going to reinforce that line there. We're going to exaggerate this a little bit. Something's not lining up. I'm not sure what it is. Okay. You know what? Actually, that whole thing needed to be moved forward. Okay. So this is my center line. I'm going to come up, connect that with the center of the top. Oops. Okay. This goes down. That comes down to the line that was there. And now we should connect. Yeah. There we go. That's better. Okay, so this is the silver part. Here. Cool, cool. And that does get a little bit bigger as it goes back. Not by much. You can just pull this in a little bit. And then it's got this little surface detail. And then we'll talk about those grooves in a bit. Okay. Now, let's see, do we have, yep, okay. So, there are these little cylindrical pieces. That's actually probably too far. So I'm just looking at these and I can tell, instead of having to like figure out this complicated geometry, I'm just gonna look at it. And then, so I can see that there's this like kind of like hump at the top. So I'm actually gonna make this a little bit smaller to accommodate for that hump. Okay, so this surface line is now going to transition down like that. I'll get rid of that to make sure it doesn't confuse me later. Okay, so then that's going to reflect on this outside as well. Awesome. Let's put another one of those thingamabobs. Okay. What else is going on up top? Okay. There's also goes. And then that is actually the back. But it looks like it straightens out a bit. And we've got a flat space. And then it comes in. And then it does one of these. And then our center line is here. If we were to draw a surface line, it'd be something like that. But this is really swoopy. So if it was here, go to there, I'd say something maybe like that. Okay. And then we got a lot of interesting stuff going on. Well, no, you guys might need to like see that. Okay. Here's our center line. And we've got like a logo placement thing. That goes all along here. Make sure we get that. And then oh, same thing over here. There's this dip with that little like dealio there. Yep. Okay. I think I accidentally erased that. Okay, let's go look at the button. Okay, so this, the main black plastic part, the motor housing, looks like it actually comes down a bit. So if the silver part ends here, then that'll actually come down like so. Out and around the button. Come in for a short bit. And then go up like that. Parallel to the logo space. These are all like really just unnecessary, very like aggressive parting line thingies that they just put in for fun to make it look more rugged. Sort of silly in my opinion. Okay, and then we've got, okay, so actually this button, if we were to draw it from the side view, do I have a better picture? Yeah, so from the side view, it actually probably like starts up here and then goes kind of like that. So that's what we're going to be doing here. Where it starts there. Like so, and then it goes straight back. And then what happens next? Okay, then this like very textured black plastic that starts about here comes in to meet it. And then if we were to draw what would be the center line, come back here, maybe even further, comes way back, and then like this. So that means, and then I think that just, actually that's probably a lot bigger than it looks. Too zoomed in. Yeah, that's better. And then down. Okay, so that's gonna look like, something maybe like that. And then this back part actually kind of bows out a bit before it comes down to the center. Probably even more dramatic, yeah. So maybe something kind of like this. Okay. And then, actually, I think this side needs to go out a little further. That looks a little better. Because honestly, I think this might be incorrect too. That could have become a little too swoopy, actually. Okay, that feels a little bit better. And then basically with our surface lines, we're going to be describing that front faces more elliptical. So for now we'll put some swoopy parts around here and then make that disappear more like that. So then this surface line, we'll do one of these, which makes this disappear. Okay. Let's look at this bottom portion for a bit. I have a good picture somewhere. There we go. Okay, so there's actually some pretty fun and funky stuff going on. So looks like this thing might be a little bit even longer than I thought when I adjusted it before. So let's take that into account. Okay, so it looks like there's a surface here and then like a big like kind of thing, and then one of these. That's got just a little bit of thickness to it. This comes in and then comes out. Let's see how this, shoot, I need to see how this thing actually looks in real life. One second. Okay. So, actually, this point right here comes in, whoops, like that. I'll fix it over here too. Get rid of my mess. That looks very asymmetrical. That's a little closer. Okay, and then see that this is a little bit thicker than I initially thought. So then there's like a gap. And then there's the front edge. And I'm just going to curve that around. Give that, oops, no. Okay. What I actually want is for this to come around. Sorry, I'm probably getting really messy here. And that is going to connect there. And then the other surface profile stops there. Okay, so then my actual surface contour line will look something like that. And then there's a little metal bit that goes like that. Okay, so then this becomes a leading edge line, so that gets the nice dark contour, and we'll put that in later. Okay, now what does this look like in the back? This actually is probably going to make it look even more wrong, because this has a slope to it. No, that didn't turn out too bad. Okay, so these are pretty intensely rounded, and they come out a little bit. That curves down. Nice. Okay, so now we know that our new lines are all the way out here. And I got this from the desk. For now, let's look. Here we go. At that front edge, it's equally rounded. And then it'll be the same thing at the bottom. Connect these lines. Yes. Okay, there's a fun thing over here, and it is, okay, so I'm going to put an imaginary line right here, and basically it's a part that sticks out a bit. So I'm going to extend this surface, and then this actually comes in a ways, like so. And it's part of the button thingamajig. That comes down, over, and up. And that goes in some more, and then comes this way. two surfaces there where the black plastic meets the red plastic. And then I'll just simplify that for now. And there are these two ridges for your hands, your fingers to fit over. That be just a little bit darker. And then there is a extra surface line because they like to get crazy. That ends maybe like right there. So if I imagine I am like that. And boom. Okay. And then there is another surface. I'm gonna simplify it and just say that there's a fastener hole there. That might be a little small actually. There we go. Looks like there's one over here too. We can kind of place that wherever. Nice. Okay. So now those two pieces are separated. They're not super far apart, but they are a little bit. I may have actually made that a little too tall. Looks just a little funky. Alrighty, what can we do next? Oh, there's this red button hanging out. Let's think about that. Okay, so it's a pill shape that you guys are very familiar with. And it looks like it rests right over here. So I'm gonna imagine the surface profile that's coming out of and put a pill into that, and then I'm merely going to extrude it like the vanishing points. Hey, that didn't turn out half bad. That's pretty nice. There's a little triangle on there too. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And then let's look at this thing. There's like a fun detail of how so it's like that, goes like that, goes like that. Okay. Totally unnecessary. And then we've kind of got this like octagon. You have octagons. Let's draw an octagon in perspective. Okay, let's say this is our face. It's in perspective. Let's find our center. Oh my gosh. So here's a side, here's a side, here's a side, here's a side. Make sure those are parallel. I'm just going to connect those faces. So there's an octagon in perspective. There's definitely an octagon over here. Let's see, what other shapes? Hexagons. Let's see, how would you draw a hexagon? If there's two sides, connect them like that. you can draw a TIE fighter. Pentagon would be even easier. You guys can figure it out. Okay, so let's say that somewhere about there. And then we've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 vents. And the sides of the vents are just parallel with those. And then they've got some material thickness. We'll worry about that in a bit. Okay, so we have a lot of the structure now for this thing. It's coming along. Okay, what are we forgetting? Those 3 little bits that go in there, those would actually be, let's think about how would we draw those. Okay. So if this is our face, and there's our ellipse, how would we draw those? That would actually get pretty difficult. So what you could do okay, what you could do is say, okay, here's another ellipse, and then I'm gonna say that, wow, those are pretty complicated. Basically, I think you'd have to look at them because they're like semicircles that then extrude outward like that. Those are actually fairly complicated to draw. If I were you, I would not worry about drawing those, especially when they would be so small. Basically, can just ignore those. Okay, so we're not going to be putting any logos on there. We've got some more vents we can kind of handle. Well, let's put in those vents, I guess. Okay. So it's above the logo placement. We've got some stuff going on. So there's like a thingy where it says the 19.2. These are just for reference for you guys of where we're drawing. So I can take this line and stop it right about after that. Up. And then this one goes about halfway. Those are in line. And there's another little one. Oops. Is there a better? Oh yeah. Kind of like that. Okay. Cool. So let's drop that down. I can say, oops. Craftsman drill. Okay. Let's use the right thickness. This part will be thin. This will be one of those gradual changes. Okay. And then this black part is next. Kind of has a flat face. That becomes bigger. And that ends. Oh, got a little bit of a football there. Okay, and then this next one has some that intense stuff to it. So I'm honestly just going to kind of randomly. Oops, I'm using the wrong line weight. Go around this edge, following this curvature, and then honestly just going to gently connect these. Okay, how far does, oh, this is perfect, okay. And then my other side. Cool, okay. And then line, 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 line. Okay, and then up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Same thing over here, down, up. Okay, and then that transitions back to a leading edge line. That was probably a little too dramatic. Okay. And then we just need to say, okay, this line gets completed. So we're drawing just basically a whole new ellipse through there. Cool. And then what's really fun is that some of these will start to be just a little bit darker, like this one, and this one, and that one's already. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, and then let's go actually into here. Line, line. Dun 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 dun. Same thing. Down. Okay, so my bad, this side. This will be a little bit darker. That'll be dark, dark, really dark, 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 really dark, super dark. I got a little messy up in there. Okay. Next, the silver part. Exaggerate that just a little bit. There's a ridge. Make sure we capture that. And that'll be a leading edge line where the silver part ends. And we don't do the text. We'll look here again. There's only a few of these things. So basically, just gonna kind of draw what we see. And that'll be darker. So we can only see 3 at a time. We'll do one more. Okay, same thing here. Okay, so it came out looking a little bit funkier. I think these, oops, this surface and this surface should have just been a lot closer together. So basically this line here should have just been like bigger out this way. That's okay. Okay, next. Start looking here. So we will see this and that. Make sure. Okay. That will come in like that. There. One line. Make sure we do that in one stroke. Here we go. To the other side. Nice. The button. Cool. Okay. And back down. Okay, there is another line here. And then, okay, let's start putting in our surface lines too so we don't get lost. Okay, there's the top. Okay, so this time our parting line is actually where the plastic meets, which isn't too unusual, but that does mean that we should put in 2 lines in that the one closest to us will actually be a leading edge line. And that will come down in there. Okay, just like that. What can we do? Let's do the logo placement thing, this whole deal. I have another, I don't have a great picture of that specifically. Okay, so we're going to use this. And then that will just go all the way back, basically. Bunch of unnecessary lines, silly work for people who do surfacing. Okay, and then we have our first vent. Got a little rounded edges. Okay, so now this vent, I think, actually will go like this, and then like that, I think. Something kind of like that. So then when we go back and put our proper line weights in, gradual, gradual to thick, to gradual. Yeah, I think that actually turned out okay. And then basically do the same thing over here. Round the edges just a little bit. Random fact, random piece of information for you guys. A lot of the reasons that plastic has these like rounded edges almost all the time is because when the plastic parts are being pushed out of the machine, they're easier to push out when they have rounded edges. I don't know all of like the physics and the engineering behind it, but these like rounded parts are actually really beneficial to the molding process, I think. Okay, so putting in our little vents over here. And then, let's see. Okay. Show the material thickness. Okay, and then we're basically going to mirror the other two vents that we created. Here. Oops. There we go. Okay, this should be a thick line. Thick line. Okay, and there should be another vent underneath there. I kind of messed up, it looks like, because that's where my button is. I'm actually gonna prioritize the button. Okay, there's that. I'll put my little play or direction arrow. Controls which way the thing's going. One thing that I didn't do is a material change on the trigger. That's nice. So this does not need two lines because this is called an overmold. Okay, so quick, also fun fact, I'm assuming that this is, the red part is a hard plastic and the black part is what I assume would be rubber or a rubber-like substance. And we don't need a parting line there because those are actually molded together at the same time. So basically the red plastic comes into a mold, it's that part minus the black part, and then another different polymer comes in and goes over that, hence overmold. And now, because those things are chemically bonded, humans don't actually have the technology to separate those. So once those two things have been mixed, they can never be recycled. They cannot be recycled with today's technology, and therefore are just bound for the landfill. So I personally am not a fan of overmolded plastic. A lot of triggers and stuff use that. I'm sure this handle is the same way, where like the textured part is maybe rubber, and then the other black plastic is like something else, and those are just going to be like that for eternity if humans never invent a technology to separate those. Fun facts of the day. Okay, so I'm putting in that little channel. It's too big. It's really just like, again, a needless little surface for decoration. You could argue that it's their like brand language and therefore has some value. Just gonna put some little things in there to show that there's something going on there. And that's going to continue around over here. Oops. Okay. Something kind of like that. And then I think it comes up even a little further. Yeah. Okay. And then I can just put this rectangular prism in here just to show this is where some more branding goes. Oops, too dark. Okay. Just gonna put a little thing in there. Oops. Little something there. Okay. This is actually looking, the top part is looking pretty close to being done. Okay. I think that's pretty solid actually. Okay. Next, the base. So again, oh, okay, 2 pieces of plastic. Come down to here. So in this next one will be a leading edge line. Okay, and then this is just going to be a surface, like an informational line. That shows where that radii starts and stops. So, let's see. Actually, the side of this thing is pretty flat for the most part. So if we were to put in let's see. Oops. Okay, surface line be like that, and then that, and then that. Okay. Boom. Boom. And gradual change. And gradual change. And then leading edge. Then let's do one of these, one of these. Oops, too far. Show where that top edge is at. Continue this around. Continue this around. Okay. And, okay, I'm gonna just inconspicuously bring up this bottom edge. To fix the proportions a little bit. Simplistic things like this, you can kind of modify your proportions at the end without too much difficulty. Okay. Nope. And then leading edge, transition, gradual, same thing, little line, transition to big line, big line, big line, small line, small line, small, bigger, bigger, and surface. I think that's actually going to have some stuff behind it. And then another silly thing. Okay, and now because those are two different pieces of plastic, we'll do the leading edge line above it. And then do one of these, one of those. Okay. Wow. Did we just do the thing? Just about. Oops, what am I doing? Bumps. Okay, don't forget those little details where the things like go down into the material. Okay. Starts coming up a little bit and then come flat. That goes in. That's flat. Out a bit. This is gonna do one of these. Cool. Okay, drop shadow. So I think the base is about as wide as it gets, but it does come out a bit at the back. So I'm just gonna add just a really simple thing there. And then another really simple thing here where maybe it keeps getting a little lower, and we can use this line as a reference for how far it goes. So here, there, probably something kind of like that, except we will boom, maybe more, boom, 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 okay. Remember, super simple. Nothing complicated necessary. Okay. Wow. Alrighty. We can just say like throw some other important things in here. That's metal. Maybe this is black plastic. We can just say, here's a vent. Direction button. Battery. And how about release button? And your name in the bottom right hand corner. Okay. Whew, that was a big one. So hopefully this was a fun one for you guys. Oh shoot. I totally forgot about this transition here. Something maybe kind of like that. Oh yeah, that's better. Okay. So, what now? Okay, let's talk about a few things. Got a few requests for information on drop shadows. So let's do. Oh yeah, doesn't that look nice without all of the stuff? Okay. Which way? Okay. Let's say I did my drill like that. Okay, so how would you do the drop shadow if the ground was like here? Well, once again, I would just use the references that you have to kind of just estimate. Give me something really, really simple. It does not need to be intense. It doesn't need to be super calculated. Like this, you know, you might say like, oh, this takes a lot of like skill or whatever. It really doesn't. So yeah, not really looking for anything technical. If you didn't even want to do that and you had your drill like this, I would even be fine with that. Like that's totally fine. If you went the other way, and did something like that, this would totally be fine too. And so the reason that you guys don't need to stress over like drop shadows or anything like that is because lighting is so like specific. You know, like, do you have one light? Are you outside? Do you have 12 lights? Are you in a studio? Are you like, you know, doing this, that, or the other thing? Like this kind of thing, this example here is like a super is the like simplification of a super harsh outdoor light, say at like perfect noon, you know, the sun is like directly above you. But if you're in a studio, let's say this option, and you have like a big light that's overneath your subject, your shadows are going to get really wide, or if you have multiple lights, you know, then you're gonna have weird shadows cast in other directions. So like, don't get too hung up on the shadows. Just give me, you know, something to like ground your product. It doesn't need to be fancy or complicated at all. But of course, like if you want to go the distance, like, let's see, what about like, let's do a hair dryer. Let's say, you know, this is your hair dryer. And then your ground, like here's your center line, and there's your ground, there's your like 0. If you know that, say this is kind of elliptical for the most part, and you know that, you can go ahead and like just drop that general shape, right? Even just getting close is totally fine. You guys don't have to like nail it. It's okay. Oops. What about... Oh yeah, I don't think I talked about that much, but like you could use the power cord as a cute like compositional element if you want to make it more tasty like that. Also, don't go nuts on vents either. Like if there's like 5 vents, I believe in you guys to be able to like properly sketch those vents and their respective like line weights and stuff, like so, right? Like you guys can handle that really well. But like, I don't know, in this instance, if there's like a bunch of them, you know, and you have a shape, this is like the end of your hair dryer, and there's just like a ton of vents, you guys could also just kind of give me like a sort of stylistic, within reason, like you guys should be using your best judgment, right? Like that is acceptable, that is acceptable. If you guys go crazy, won't like it. Also, we're still on the chair project, so your chair probably won't have vents, but it could have like slats, so that's the whole thing. Be wary about this. I urge you to use caution. Maybe I shouldn't have shown you that. It's okay. All right. That is the end of today's lesson. Happy Monday.